Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is VC Pramod with the Midday News. The headlines. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh lauds Navy's proactive forward deployment during the standoff with Chinese troops last year. President Ramnath Kovind will reach Kanpur by train in Uttar Pradesh this evening on a 5-day visit. Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank to interact virtually with students to discuss on evaluation of CBSE board exams. Over 30 crore 79 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered to beneficiaries so far. Over 51,000 new COVID cases reported across the country in last 24 hours. National COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 96.66%. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar embarks on a visit to Greece and Italy today. NIA files charge sheet against 7 terrorists of Tehreek-ul-Mujahideen in connection with the Punch conspiracy case of Jammu and Kashmir. FATF to decide on Pakistan's fate in its plenary session today. And shooter Saurabh Chaudhary bags bronze medal at ISSF World Cup shooting in Croatia. As the nation gears up for free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years, we advise our listeners to get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 4 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene, and get vaccinated. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today hailed the Navy's proactive forward deployment during the standoff with Chinese troops last year. He said it signalled India's intent that it was ready for active hostilities with China. He was speaking at Kochi after reviewing the progress of work in the building of the indigenous aircraft carrier INS Vikrant. Terming the IAC project and the project Seabird that he reviewed yesterday in Karwar shining examples of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Defence Minister said the Modi government is committed to a strong navy. He also referred to the recent decision to acquire 6 submarines under Project 75 India for 43,000 crore rupees and said all these measures including Seabird, IAC, Vikrant will increase the Navy's reach. On his visit on board indigenous aircraft carrier IAC, which is in advanced stages of construction by the Indian Navy, Mr. Singh said commissioning of indigenous aircraft carrier next year will be befitting tribute to 75 years of India's independence. He said combat reach of aircraft carrier will add formidable capabilities in defence of the country and help secure India's interest in maritime domain. Mr. Singh lauded the efforts of all the naval officers involved in its construction work amidst the pandemic. The Defence Minister said 42 warships have been built indigenously, which is a testimony to the country's advancements in science and technology. The President of India, Ramnath Kovind, will reach Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh this evening on a 5-day visit of the state. During the tour, he will visit his birthplace Paronk in Kanpur Dehat district and later he will go to state capital Lucknow. He will take part in programs scheduled in his birthplace. It is after a long time that a President of India is taking the train route to reach his destination. A report.
President Ramnath Kovind's choice of the mode of journey by train is in line with the tradition of a number of presidents who took to train journey to connect with people in various parts of the country. It would be after a gap of 15 years that an incumbent president will make a train journey. The last time a president travelled by train was in 2006 when Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam boarded a special train from Delhi to Dehradun. Train journey was a preferable mode of country's first president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who often undertook train journeys. The train visit of President Ramnath Kovind is also special, and the stations en route have been decorated to welcome the President on his first train journey. The train will make 2 stopovers at Jhinjak and Rura of Kanpur Dehat, where the President will interact with his old acquaintances. Heavy security arrangements are in place in view of the President's visit. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Kanpur Dehat.
India is registering a significant decline in active caseloads and new cases of coronavirus. With this, the recovery rate is continuously improving in the country. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry has said the active caseloads presently comprise 2.03% of the cumulative positive cases, and it is continuously declining. It said the country has registered a decline of over 14,000 active cases in the last 24 hours. At present, there are over 6,12,000 active cases in the country. The country is also witnessing a declining trend in the weekly and daily positivity rate. India's weekly positivity rate currently stands at 3% and daily positivity rate is at 2.98%. This is the 18th consecutive day when the country has reported a daily positivity rate below 5%. India's daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases for the 43rd consecutive day. A total of 64,527 patients have recovered from coronavirus disease within 24 hours. The recovery rate has reached 96.66% in the country. Over 2.91 lakh patients have already recovered from the infectious disease so far. The country has registered a total of 51,667 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. The Union Health Ministry said a total of 1,329 deaths have been reported in the country within 24 hours, taking the toll to over 3,93,000 across the country. The Indian Council of Medical Research has informed that over 17,35,000 COVID tests were conducted yesterday. India has administered over 30.79 lakh COVID vaccine doses to the beneficiaries so far. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry has said over 60,73,000 vaccine doses were administered to the beneficiaries in the last 24 hours. The ministry also said that more than 1.50 lakh COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states and union territories to be administered to beneficiaries. The ministry said the central government has provided over 30.54 lakh COVID vaccine doses to states and union territories so far. The ministry is assured that over 47 lakh vaccine doses will be provided to states and union territories within the next 3 days.
In Madhya Pradesh, about 35 lakh people have been administered vaccine so far under the vaccination campaign launched in the state from June the 21st. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
The state reported 62 new cases, while 255 patients have recovered from infection. The number of active patients reduced to 1,280. The weekly positivity rate is 0.1%, while the recovery rate is 98.7%. No new case of COVID-19 has been reported in 31 districts of the state. 3 districts, Alirajpur, Burhanpur and Khandwa, have become corona-free. There is neither any new case found nor any active cases present. Pooja P. Vardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
Chief Minister of Maharashtra Uddhav Thackeray conducted a high-level meeting to discuss the preparedness for the possible third wave of COVID-19. The Chief Minister, along with Health Minister Rajesh Tope, top bureaucrats and members of the State COVID Task Force yesterday discussed with various district collectors of the state on the plans to deal with the threat of a possible third wave. More from our correspondent.
The CM, while speaking to district collectors of Raigad, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg, Satara, Sangli, Kolhapur and Hingoli districts in a televised meeting, advised them not to rush on resuming business activities in their respective areas, as the second wave is not yet gone and the threat of possible third wave is looming over. CM Thackeray directed the health department to plan for all the districts on how much more oxygen and ICU beds will be required and how many facilities like field hospitals will have to be set up in the near future. He said that they should also ensure that medicines and other essential medical supplies are available in remote and rural areas. Chief Secretary Sitaram Kunte, who was also present in the meeting, laid emphasis on a large-scale testing, tracing and vaccination and ensured that the necessary facilities would be provided to the district in this regard. The district collectors present in the meeting informed about the measures being taken in their districts and also requested for the provision of mobile laboratories to fight the threat of the virus. Devopriya Bhattacharjee, AIR News, Mumbai.
The BJP today criticized the Delhi government, saying the data presented by the Oxygen Audit Committee in the report is shocking. Speaking to media, party spokesperson Sambit Patra said it is unbelievable to see the AAP government politicized oxygen supply when COVID was at its peak. Mr. Patra said it is petty politics. He said the report of Oxygen Audit Panel appointed by the Supreme Court has said the Delhi government had shown its oxygen requirement by inflating it 4 times. Delhi Chief Minister Manish Sisodia, reacting to the oxygen audit report, said the report is fabricated. Mr. Sisodia said BJP leaders have been talking about a report which does not even exist. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court Audit Panel in a report said proactive steps by the Union government during COVID first wave helped to quickly enhance oxygen production during the second wave.
Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank will interact virtually with students today to discuss their concerns and queries related to evaluation of CBSE board exams. In a tweet, the minister said students can share their doubts or suggestions through Twitter or Facebook by this afternoon. Board of Secondary Education Odisha will declare the 10th board results in the afternoon today. The results of the Open School Certificate and Madhyama examination will also be released today. The state government had earlier cancelled the 10th board regular examination due to the prevailing pandemic.
This will be for the first time in history that the results of Class 10th under the Odisha Board of Secondary Education will be declared without an annual examination. Yet, as always, the students are on tenterhooks about the results, which mark the first major milestone in their academic life. The BSE has adopted certain objective criteria to award marks to the students on the basis of their past performances. The students can check their scores at www.bseodisha.ac.in and www.bseodisha.nic from 6 p.m. onwards. They can also check the results on their mobile phones by sending SMS to 5676750. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar left on a visit to Greece and Italy today. Briefing media, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said during the 2-day visit to Greece, Dr. Jaishankar will meet his counterpart. This is the first visit at the External Affairs Minister level since 2003. After Greece, the minister will travel to Italy to attend the G20 ministerial meetings. Mr. Bagchi said these include the meetings related to foreign ministerial level as well as the development ministers level.
In Greece, he will be making a bilateral visit on June 25 and June 26 for talks with his Greek counterparts, apart from other engagements. This is, of course, the first visit at the EAM's level since 2003. After Greece, EAM will travel to Italy to attend the G20 ministerial meetings. These include the ministerial meetings related to foreign minister level as well as the development ministers level, both of which will be represented by EAM from India.
National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met his Russian counterpart Nikolai Patrushev on the sidelines of the SCO meeting at Dushanbe in Tajikistan. They discussed contemporary developments of bilateral, regional and global significance. Mr. Doval was in Tajikistan's capital Dushanbe for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO meeting of National Security Chiefs. External Affairs Ministry said in New Delhi that the SCO NSAs meet in Dushanbe, Tajikistan, discussed issues of international and regional security, countering terrorism, extremism and radicalism, countering illicit trafficking of drugs. The meeting also discussed the preparations for SCO Summit of Heads of State, which is likely to take place in Dushanbe later this year. Briefing media, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said an outcome document in the nature of a protocol was adopted after the NSA level meeting.
That Tajikistan holds the current chair of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Tajikistan hosted the 16th meeting of the SCO Secretaries of the National Security Council's meeting on June 23rd in Dushanbe. The Indian delegation was led by our National Security Advisor. Secretary General of the SCO and the Executive Director of the SCO Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure also participated in this intergovernmental meeting. The meeting discussed issues of international and regional security, countering terrorism, extremism and radicalism, countering the illicit trafficking of drugs, and also the preparations for the SCO Summit Heads of State, which is to take place in Dushanbe, fully in September this year.
Secretary East, Ministry of External Affairs Riva Ganguly Das attended the East Asia Summit Senior Officials meeting yesterday. Ms. Das underlined India's interest in maintaining peace and stability, freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea, in keeping with international law. She also conveyed that the code of conduct being negotiated should not prejudice the legitimate interests of third parties and should be fully consistent with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. On developments in Myanmar, she expressed India's support for the ASEAN process. She conveyed that as a friend and close neighbour of Myanmar, India will continue to play a constructive and meaningful role in resolving the current situation there. She also put forward India's stand on terrorism, among other issues.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh lauds Navy's proactive forward deployment during the standoff with Chinese troops last year. President Ramnath Kovind will reach Kanpur by train in Uttar Pradesh this evening on a 5-day visit. Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank to interact virtually with students to discuss on evaluation of CBSE board exams. Over 30 crore 79 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered to beneficiaries so far. Over 51,000 new COVID cases reported across the country in the last 24 hours. National COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 96.66%. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar embarks on a visit to Greece and Italy today. NIA files charge sheet against 7 terrorists of Tehreek-ul-Mujahideen in connection with the Punch conspiracy case of Jammu and Kashmir. FATF to decide on Pakistan's fate in its plenary session today. Shooter Saurabh Chaudhary bags bronze medal at ISSF World Cup shooting in Croatia. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
The Centre is disseminating awareness of national helpline numbers for the benefit of citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. The helpline number of the Health and Family Welfare Ministry is 1075. The Child Helpline number is 1098. For senior citizens of Delhi, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the helpline number is 14567. The helpline number of the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, for psychological support is 08046110007. The Ayush COVID-19 Counselling Helpline number is 14443. And MyGov WhatsApp Help Desk number is 9013151515.
Welcome back to the Midday News. The National Investigation Agency NIA has filed charge sheet against 7 terrorists of Tehreek-ul-Mujahideen TUM in connection with the Punch conspiracy case of Jammu and Kashmir. The case was first registered under the provisions of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act in the Mendhar police station of Punch district. The case was filed following the arrest of Muhammad Mustafa Khan and recovery of 6 hand grenades along with other incriminating documents from his residence. The case was later taken over by the NIA. Investigation has revealed that the 7 charge-sheeted accused persons were part of a deep-rooted criminal conspiracy by Pakistan-based handlers of TUM and their terror associates based in Punch and Kuwait to execute terrorist activities in the country. Urban Development Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said Modi government's flagship missions have put people at the centre of urban governance during COVID-19 pandemic. In an article, Mr. Puri wrote 3 major flagship missions of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs: the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation Amrit, and Smart Cities Mission today, completed 6 years since their launch on June the 25th, 2015. Mr. Puri wrote, in the 10 years of the UPA from 2004 to 2014, the total investment in the urban sector was around 1,57,000 crore rupees, while in the 7 years of the NDA from 2014 to 2021, that figure is approximately 11,83,000 crore rupees. Mr. Puri wrote, a house built under PMAYU is in the name of the woman of the household or joint ownership and mandatorily has a toilet. Grant Thornton Bharat's Affordable Housing in India report said Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has created over 1.2 crore employment opportunities. The report cited that these employment opportunities so far were created through forward and backward linkages across 21 sectors. Earlier, in an interview to AIR News, Housing and Urban Affairs Secretary Durga Shankar Mishra said the houses constructed under PMAY are not confined to four walls and a roof alone.
When I say we have delivered houses, it is not house with the four walls. It's a house which will fulfill the dreams of the poor man. Housing is a dream of every person who comes from the rural area to the urban area. He needs a good house. So this house has got water, drinking water. This has got gas to cook their food. This has got a toilet and the septage or a sewer system. And it has got electricity. Everything possible. Then only we consider the house is complete. And the beneficiary moves in there.
The Enforcement Directorate is conducting searches today at the residence of former Home Minister of Maharashtra Anil Deshmukh in Nagpur in a money laundering case. The CBI had earlier investigated Deshmukh's house in Sachin Waze case, and ED had raided the office and residence of Deshmukh's close associates in Nagpur. The case pertains to allegations of corruption levelled by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh against Anil Deshmukh in March this year. Enforcement Directorate has attached immovable and movable assets worth around 366 crore rupees belonging to Adarsh Group of Companies, Riddhi Siddhi Group of Companies and others. The attached assets are in the form of agricultural, residential and commercial land parcels situated at Rajasthan, Haryana and New Delhi and fixed deposits. The ED had initiated investigation on the basis of an FIR registered by Special Operations Group, Rajasthan Police against Mukesh Modi, Rahul Modi and others of Adarsh Group. Officials of Adarsh Credit Cooperative Society Limited, ACCSL and other private persons. The investigation revealed that they and associates, including society's officials, siphoned off depositors' funds from ACCSL by way of interlinked fraudulent transactions. Earlier, ED had attached properties worth over 1,489 crore rupees across 6 states.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said the dark days of emergency can never be forgotten. He said the period from 1975 to 1977 witnessed a systematic destruction of institutions. In a series of tweets today, Mr. Modi remembered all those countrymen who had resisted emergency and protected Indian democracy. He urged the people to do everything possible to strengthen India's democratic spirit and live up to the values enshrined in our constitution. In a series of tweets, Union Home Minister Amit Shah also said on this day in 1975, Congress killed the world's largest democracy by imposing emergency in the country for its selfishness and ego for power. He said several satyagrahis were imprisoned and restrictions were imposed on the freedom of press. He added, fundamental rights of the citizens were taken away and the parliament and the court were made a mute spectator. Union Minister Mr. Zavadekar also said Congress, which often talks about freedom of expression, imposed emergency in the country and ended all freedom. He said emergency is the true form of a Congress. BJP President Jagat Prakash Nadda in a tweet today said the Congress declared emergency for political interests. He said emergency is a black spot on the great democracy of India. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has paid tributes to eminent freedom fighter and India's first woman Chief Minister, Sucheta Kriplani, on her birth anniversary today. Mr. Naidu said she was a true Gandhian and a zealous patriot who inspired many women to join the freedom movement. Mr. Naidu said her role in the Quit India movement will always be remembered.
Asia Pacific Group APG of Global Terror Funding Watchdog Financial Action Task Force FATF will be deciding today whether Pakistan stays in the grey list in its plenary session. Pakistan was put on the grey list for the Paris-based FATF in June 2018 and the country has since been struggling to come out of it. The Asia Pacific Group APG is a regional affiliate of the FATF. The second follow-up report on mutual evaluation of Pakistan released by the APG also downgraded the country on one criteria. Earlier this month, FATF retained Pakistan on enhanced follow-up list. According to media reports, Islamabad continued to report back to Asia Pacific Group on money laundering on the country's progress to strengthen its implementation of anti-money laundering and combating financing terror measures. US has barred some solar products made in China's Xinjiang region, alleging human rights abuses. White House last night announced steps to crack down on forced labor in the supply chain for solar panels from Xinjiang, including a ban on imports from a silicon producer there. In one of the newly announced actions, US Customs and Border Protection banned imports of silica-based products made by Hoshin Silicon Industry Company, as well as goods made using those products.
Two-time Olympic medalist Sushil Kumar was today shifted from the Mandoli jail to Tihar. Kumar was arrested in connection with the murder of wrestler Sagar Dhankar, who was beaten to death in a clash involving two groups inside the Chhatrasal Stadium premises. Our correspondent reports special security arrangements have been made and police personnel have been deployed near his barrack round the clock. With 29 days to go for Tokyo Olympic Games, All India Radio will take a look at India's most promising teenager shooter, Manu Bhaker, who will be the busiest shooter at the Tokyo Olympics.
Born on February 18, 2002 in Chhajjar, Haryana, Manu created a sensation in shooting circles by winning gold in her ISSF World Cup debut. The women's 10-meter air pistol finals at Guadalajara boasted of experienced Olympians such as Alejandra Zavala Vazquez, Celine Gubervilla and Anna Korakaki. Yet, the event was won by an unknown Indian teenager. Manu's feat heralded the revival of India's shooting on the international stage. The majority of India's top shooters were aged 20 or younger, and it all started with a 16-year-old creating history in Mexico. While Manu has had her moments in women's 25-meter pistol, it's in women's 10-meter air pistol where she has had the most success. Soon after her Guadalajara heroics, she came into national prominence again. After winning gold at the 2018 Commonwealth Games 2019, saw the advent of Manu's mixed air pistol partnership with Saurabh Chaudhary. Starting from their senior debut at the 2019 ISSF World Cup at New Delhi, the duo has won all possible golds at ISSF WC competition since then. Manu's biggest medal till date has been the gold at the 2019 edition of the prestigious ISSF World Cup final. She stunned everyone by shooting 244.7 in the final. The score was a new world record in women's junior 10-meter air pistol final. AIR News, Sports Desk.
Tokyo-bound shooter Saurabh Chaudhary opened India's account at the ISSF World Cup in Osijek, Croatia, with a bronze in the men's 10-meter air pistol event. India had endured a modest opening day on which podium finished included the likes of Manu Bhaker and Ilavenil Valarivan. 19-year-old Saurabh scored 220 in the final after qualifying with a score of 581. Compatriot Abhishek Verma finished fifth in the same event with a score of 179.3 after also shooting 581 in the qualifying. The event is the Indian shooting team's final competitive outing before the Olympics in Tokyo.
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, one terrorist was killed in an encounter that erupted this afternoon between terrorists and security forces in Hanjipura area of South Kashmir's Shopian district. Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for the day. The national capital Delhi may witness thunderstorm with rain. Minimum temperature was 25 degrees. The maximum may go up to 39 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Minimum temperature was 25 degrees. Maximum is expected to be around 30 degrees. Chennai will witness generally cloudy sky with light rain or drizzle. Kolkata will see a partly cloudy sky with one or two spells of rain or thunder showers. And now before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh lauds Navy's proactive forward deployment during standoff with Chinese troops last year. President Ramnath Kovind will reach Kanpur by train in Uttar Pradesh this evening on a 5-day visit. Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank to interact virtually with students to discuss on evaluation of CBSE board exams. Over 30 crore 79 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered to beneficiaries so far. Over 51,000 new COVID cases reported across the country in last 24 hours. National COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 96.66%. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar embarks on visit to Greece and Italy today. And with that we end the midday news.